I'm Blake Sealer.
And I'm Brianna Kerbeyer.
And we are spiritual hygienists. We're that specialist that you see at the dentist that gets in there under your gums and gets that. No, I'm just kidding. What is spiritual hygiene?
For me, spiritual hygiene is having a clear, direct channel that's open. It's meaning that I'm connected to my spirituality. I have an open connection to source. One of the primary things that Blake and I teach is around sacred sexuality. And a lot of people start this off by asking, like, what is sacred sexuality? And we talk about it often being the power of intention. It's the tiniest nutshell version. The power of intention and bringing intentionality. What else would you add to that?
Currency, a word that we like to use a lot, which is not the synonym for money, but being current, like bringing ourselves to current, where we are fully in touch with everything that is true for us and true between two people in a relationship. Currency is a big part of spiritual hygiene. And I would say also like cleansing ourselves of our attachments, right? Like our minds and our personalities tend to hook into what we want and avoid what we don't. And each of those kind of movements of preference tend to keep us a little bit more like narrowly focused in like, what do I have to do next? What do I have to get next? We're, just very like goal-oriented life, which is fine. Most people are living in that vibration all the time, but it's exhausting. So for me, spiritual hygiene also means rest. It means time off from all the doing and a lot more time spent just being still, being in nature, being quiet, being alone. And all of those things allow us to, let the deluge of information and responsibility and action that we are constantly trying to stay productive with, like just come to a full stop so that we can actually let our system catch up and flush out some of these little fixations and focal points.
So I think that's really important in relationship. And so connecting spiritual hygiene into relationship and where we find this in a relational space.
Mm-hmm. You want me to pick that up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in a relationship, spiritual hygiene amounts to prioritizing self-care for the individuals in a relationship. It comes down to proactive communication between two people in a relationship. You could call proactive communication like part of getting current, like catching up and telling each other all of our various truths.
Also making sure that there's a balance point in the relationship, like that it's not like we work together. And so it's important that we also have a lot of time for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that when we're doing our fun parts, we're not always spending the time doing processing as well. So having really specific times and places to be able to feel into the many different layers that we need.
Yeah, agreed. Balance is a big part of it. I would say another important piece of spiritual hygiene is really like checking in on each other's needs in the moment. We can get into dynamics in a relationship where one partner is a little bit more used to fulfilling the needs or tracking the needs of the people in the relationship, holding space more, or being the busier person, and the other person is sort of attending to them. Like that can happen in all sorts of ways that are range from totally healthy and conscious all the way to codependent and not so healthy. But I think that the more we are supporting each other's individual health, individual hygiene, sovereignty, and sense of autonomy, the more that we are supporting our beloved to show up fully in the relationship. And so what does that look like? That might mean like encouraging them to go take time for themselves, whether it's hanging out with other friends or time spent alone. It might be sourcing your own support for your own needs in other places proactively, so that you're not always coming to your partner to be your primary support person, even if they can, even if you love it when they do. Like to need them to be that all the time can be really draining, and it can undermine the spiritual hygiene in relationship. What would you add?
I would add also that it's a real opportunity to just celebrate the individual and their growth, to be in a place of celebrating. I see a lot of couples get stuck in not celebrating each other unless it has to do with the other person, especially if it's something that might be slightly inconvenient to my life. Whether that's Blake taking time to go off to a cabin on his own for a few days, or if it's going on a date with someone new, or investing in something that really means something to them. I see a lot of people hesitate to celebrate each other because it's not what they would choose. And it's not something that directly benefits them, because they're not looking necessarily at the bigger picture, that everything that my beloved is doing to make themselves happy if it's coming from a healthy place, is going to eventually really benefit the unit and the relationship. And being able to really look at the relationship as that third entity. There's Blake, there's me, there's the relationship. But if I'm only focused on me or only focused on Blake, then I forget to look at like what is really here for the relationship and the relation. Like what does the relationship need right now?
Deep down at the root of this conversation of spiritual hygiene, in my eyes, has a lot to do with what are our true needs and where are the places inside us where we are unconsciously being dependent on another human being, usually our romantic partner, to make us feel safe, to make us feel whole, to make us feel lovable, worthy, accepted, belonging, all that sort of stuff that's really more connected with our individual self-esteem. A lot of people are outsourcing that to relationship. And the antidote for that, in my experience, is inner child work. All those dependencies and the places inside us where we don't know how to show up for ourselves, or we don't believe that we're worthy, or some deeper sense of self that has a bit of wounding to it, that is going to be better addressed in a place like Liberation, Releasing the Past, this beautiful inner child program that Brianna and I are both involved in, created by Dr. Stacey Ellis, where you get to go and spend a week really diving in with your young child self to really understand like how was that child being cared for or overlooked in some ways, and how has that turned into the relational strategies that I'm still employing to try to get these deep childhood needs met. So we have dates coming up across the country this year. I'm doing a training in just a few weeks in Sedona, Arizona that still has a few openings. If you want to come check out the Liberation Childhood Experience right now.
And we're bringing Liberation Childhood Experience and Liberation Adolescent Experience to Austin, Texas, and that'll be happening the end of September and into October. One of my biggest takeaways from Liberation is that I now am able to interface with the smaller parts of myself on a daily basis, where it's like I hear her perk up from the background, like, hi, I have needs. Excuse me, sorry. Hi. And then she's not thrashing and coming through my adult body. Before she was just taking the keys and driving the car, which is really dangerous for a 6-year-old.
Even the 6-year-old.
And we're strapped in the back, like, she took the keys again. But I now have a clear difference of what it looks like to be able to say to Blake or to my colleagues or, even just to myself, like, okay, there's someone else that's trying to speak through me right now. And then she doesn't come out and start to, she does come out. Either one, I can acknowledge her, or she's being attended to in other ways. So she's not coming out leaky. Like I just get to be more of an adult. It's like, I didn't realize how much maturing I actually needed to do until I started to do inner child work. And, it's kind of a hard thing to talk to people about or to say sometimes when you see them in their immaturity. It's like, have you listened to your little one yet? Mm-hmm. Have you spent some time? And it's really in the days of Liberation, we really turn back the clock. There's space and time to go in and be with in a supportive, structured environment,
trauma-informed,
to be able to stand there with security and say, and even if it's uncomfortable, to say like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm 6 years old right now. Like this discomfort that I'm walking around with in my body is just so present. And I think so many people are walking around in their everyday, shoving that inner part of themselves down. And this is powerful, even if you felt like you had the perfect relationship with your parents.
Oh, especially
because the truth underneath it is that they were just humans trying to do their best. They were just humans trying to do their best.